Hello, everybody. I'm Sullivan, and my coworker Felix is going to be talking to you today about how to get paid on mobile. So let's go. First of all, one of our core tenets at Unity is enabling developer success. This means not only enabling your success when you build a great game, but also once you launch and operate that great game over time. You need to make more money than you spend to get players. The fancy marketing way of saying that is that your player lifetime value, we'll be using the word lifetime value once or twice, needs to be more of your cost of customer acquisition. Customer acquisition happens two ways. One is organic installs, word of mouth, people discovering your app in the App Store, people searching for an app with your theme. And the second is paid advertising. Let me take you through the two main product lines of Unity monetization. The first is Unity IAP, our transaction system built into the Unity engine. The second is Unity Ads, where we use both game and brand advertising to maximize monetization in your game. Underlaying both of these product lines is our full suite of Unity Analytics. What Unity Analytics allows you to do is to take information from your game performance, your monetization, optimize it, and continuously iterate to make your free-to-play game better and better over time. This is what we refer to as LTV optimization on the monetization side. So let's talk a little bit about Unity IAP. We launched Unity IAP about a year and a half ago. We support 10 platforms, including the main platforms, iOS and Android. We let you write your monetization logic one time and make transactions on any of these platforms without having to think about the interfaces, the specifics, the crazy behaviors that happen on different platforms as opposed to one you might be used to. We make this all really simple for you to write once and run everywhere. And last year, we introduced codeless IAP. What we aim to do with codeless IAP is take the pain out of even the most basic logic of making a transaction call to an extra server. You simply use the Unity editor to fill out what things you're going to sell, assign that item to a button in the Explorer, and that button will make that purchase for you, and your game logic take it from there. Since then, Unity IAP is enabled in over 350 million MAU running in app stores today. You all have generated $250 million in transactions using Unity IAP in 2017 alone. And that number continues to grow. So congratulations. Best of all, Unity IAP is free and built into the Unity editor. And today we're going to be talking about some exciting updates to that. First, let me pretend to use a computer and show you a demo. All right. So here we are in the Unity editor. The services window lives on the right side. You can turn on Unity IAP pretty simply. And then we have a menu that lets you fill out a catalog. So simply drop down to the menu, type some item that you might have. I like this reverse notation here, like your studio name, and then whatever your item is. One of the key best practices here is you want to use the same item name across every single platform you have. You don't have to. We provide overrides for that, but it just makes your life a lot simpler if the thing that you buy in Android, iOS, Amazon, Windows, all has the same transaction ID. It makes it way easier to compare across platforms. So here we go. I'm going to set the price here at $99 on iOS, because everybody wants to spend a lot of money on mega package of gems. And once that item is in the IP catalog, the editor now knows that it's available, and then you just create a button using our standard UI system. You can do purchases programmatically or use the more codeless route of attaching the behavior to the button like this. We give you both options for customization. So now I'm filling out the label on the button, and you'll see if I drop down and select the product ID, I can select make a package, and usually I've got probably 6 to 12 IAP items in there, and that button will now, we can push play and invoke, and that's the store, and that's it, right? So if you test this and it's working in Unity, in the editor, and you've gone and you've filled out your IAP items in the iOS store, that purchase will go through every single time. All right, so that's how to use Unity IAP. But now that you have this like raw hammer, like what are you going to do with this hammer? How are you going to make money? And today what we're going to do is we're going to put everything in the framework of the 4 Ps. Again, talking about marketing speak, we have product, price, placement, and promotion, and we're going to run you through each one individually and show you best practices that some of the most successful developers in the industry are using to make money on mobile. All right, let's start out with product. Fundamentally, you are building an entertainment product, but you're also running a virtual economy within that product, right? You might have a virtual world, you might have a virtual casino, but everything about free-to-play gaming revolves around, as people progress in the game, like what do they buy? What do they earn? Like what's the balance between progression and friction in the game? So product is an important piece of that. There are 2 types of products. Typically, when we talk about IAPs, or in-app purchases, we're referring to a product that somebody gets when they make a real money transaction. So if I spend $1.99 in my game, I'm typically going to get some type of premium currency that I then use to progress. There's another type of product called a virtual good, and the virtual good is what we more traditionally think of a product when we walk into a shopping mall or a store. You buy a shirt, you buy a backpack, you buy a virtual ninja sword in your store occasionally, and those are the products that people give value to in the game, right? So starting off, the best practice is you want to have enough products for people to buy in the game. You don't want to have some sort of currency and economy where people keep earning and earning and earning, and all of a sudden they have 25 billion coins, and it like, doesn't mean anything to them. A big mistake people make is not having expensive enough items or enough syncs in terms of design language. So if you have a game where people are buying a bunch of virtual items like swords and backpacks or whatever, you're probably going to want to create a gold one that's 1 million virtual coins, right? Because chances are people are going to be looking at that and have an aspirational feeling about it and want to get the best thing in the store. So always give those players the chance to have that accomplishment and to purchase that item. The second thing that you want to do is you want to have multiple currencies, right? Some of the simpler games will have one currency, but kind of ever since sort of the evolution of free-to-play gaming, you have what's called a game currency and a premium currency. A game currency is typically a lot easier to earn and is the main driver of the progression through your game. Your premium currency is typically harder or impossible to earn through game progression and maybe only purchased using IAP purchases or real money purchases, right? Your premium currency is an order of magnitude more valuable than your game currency and allows you to buy better items, maybe speed up something you're waiting to get completed building, or enter some type of limited time event for only the high rollers in the casino or whatever mission that you might be trying to pursue. The last thing you want to do is regularly update and introduce new items in your games. So I think a lot of people are kind of get that free-to-play game needs to evolve mechanically over time, and you want to add new sort of levels and adventures and new types of gameplay for your elder players. You also want to make sure that you have enough content and that you're trying out different IAP packages to see maybe if you're missing a price point or something that will get a player that wasn't interested in what you had before interested and on board. A lot of games, typically in sort of the virtual world space, depend on this content for the long-term livelihood of the game in the App Store. So you don't expect to just like launch the game, leave in the App Store, and then sort of don't touch it forever. You have to be updating it if you want to have a live ops game that you're going to manage over many years. Some developers have a strategy, and it's perfectly fine to make sort of small, fun little taste games, and they put them in. They can tend to get a bunch of downloads, monetize, and then fade off, and then you make another new game, and you put it in. Like, that's perfectly viable too, but in effect, you're making different content in that case too. So kind of your choices are, do I want to have one game that I continuously make content for, or am I creating a bunch of different experiences and creative experiences for my users? All right, so here's a couple examples of IAP Promo from Halfbrick. You'll see here a couple of things I talked about. They're using two currencies in here. They have golden apples and starfruit. They're at different price points. They can buy different things in the game, and they've made sure that this is all balanced with their economy. And if I pay $8, I obviously have something for me to spend it on, and I don't just sit around with 500,000 golden apples that don't do anything. All right, the next piece of the puzzle is price. Some best practices. We just looked at a store. We recommend 4 to 6 price points. If you were to go just do a survey of all the top grossing in the App Store, you find that around 6 is the sweet spot for price points ranging from 99 cents to $99 in the store. And this is important because some people will dive right into the $20 purchase. Some people will just get 99 cents and see what they can do with the currency. One of the other best practices around this price point is to typically highlight one of the price points you really want people to purchase. So if you have your $19.99 package and you think that's kind of the sweet spot, you say this is a best value, or a favorite, or most bought, right? And you show a little social proof around like guiding the person. When you go into a store, you like to have a recommendation, right? You don't just like to have to make all decisions for yourself. So if you have 6 things in a store, the first-time buyer isn't going to know much about your game, isn't going to know much value. So if you tell them, all right, $19.99, best value or most purchased, it's going to draw them towards that. The second thing you want to do is do new user packages. Like I said before, some people are just want to try out your game. There's 2 things you want to do. One is you want to get people in the habit of purchasing and understand the value what that purchase is. And so you want to make them understand that you're giving them a deal because they're trying out the game for the first time. They're a new user. It's going to make them more inclined to buy. One of the most important metrics you can measure in a free-to-play mobile game is what is my time to first purchase, and what is my percent of users that make a first purchase within X days. So like 3 days, what percentage user is, and then work on that. It's going to do nothing but increase your long-term monetization overall. But that's an early indicator that you can iterate on quickly, and you can put out a new version and see if that number goes up. If you're looking at something like 60-day lifetime value, it's really hard to wait the 60 days to figure out if what you did worked or not. And then the last thing you want to do is think about bundling. This is common marketing practice in the real world. It works in games too. If somebody wants to buy one of these new user packages or a special deal of the day, don't just give them the 500 coins that you regularly give them. It is more attractive to give them 500 coins plus some item that is either hard to get or it's a limited time thing that they can only get through this bundle. That's going to increase your monetization as well. So this is worth repeating. I'm sure you guys have all heard this. A small fraction of players spend, but those that do spend big. Most of your in-app economy is driven by whale behavior, and you want to make sure to be managing the life cycle of the users and understanding when somebody's a whale, when they're not a whale, when they might be inclined to buy, even when they first get into the game. Here are a couple examples of IAP pricing. As I said before, small to large. Over there on the left side, there's a deal on the very left. It might be a little hard to see from there. But that's a $5.99 package that includes a bundle. This is from Angry Birds. And on the right side, we have the beginner's bundle example from Candy Crush. So right at the top, it's $1.99. You get a bunch of the boosters. It looks like what you get is almost always better than going down to the $6.99 bundle below it, because it's almost the same boosters with a little more gold. What they're trying to do there is, if you're a new user, you're anchoring the price. It's like putting things side by side that look like they're much better deals actually make people more likely to purchase overall and not just more likely to purchase that particular deal. Next, we're going to talk about promotion. All right, so in the real world, you're going to get promotion by mail, you're going to see billboards, the radio, TV, like you're basically promoted to at all times. So your virtual world that you're created is no different. You don't want to wait for somebody to walk into your store, so to speak, in order to try to get a purchase from them. You want to be, when they launch the app, when they have certain moments in the app, making them aware that it would be beneficial for them to purchase something at that time, and that's what we refer to as an IAP promotion. So run them at all times. It's not just about the Thanksgiving sale. It's about where's this person in the life cycle of my game, and how likely do I think they are to buy something based on that. So we talked a little bit about the new users, a repeat purchaser, a lapsed purchaser. Maybe you bought something 2 weeks ago and you haven't bought for a while. Why didn't they purchase? Well, maybe they need some sort of reminder or a special deal that they think that they can get because they're a repeat purchaser. Maybe they need some sort of loyalty program, right? You can create all sorts of different promotions to manage people along the way. The second point here is be careful with the concept of sales, right? A lot of people think that, the way to make money in my games, I'll just run these sales and that will boost my revenue and that's gonna be really successful. Through a lot of trial and error of some of the biggest game companies in the industry, they've figured out that this creates what's known as a sale hangover. So what will happen is the first time you run the sale, your sales might double because everybody buys the currency and that they're really happy that it's there. But then for the next few days, your sales actually drop because everybody already filled their wallets with currency. And so now you've actually maybe made less or net neutral money than you would made if you hadn't run the sale in the first place. Even worse than that, if you continually run sales, people will get trained to wait for the sale before they buy anything, and it will actually decrease overall spending over time. So you might have run 6 or 7 sales now, 1 every 2 weeks, and that's just what you're training the user behavior to do. A much better practice for promotions is you want to give people the opportunity to buy something that is different than from what is in your store. You don't want to be cutting prices in your store all the time. You want to give somebody a new package. Maybe it's one that's at $30. It's kind of right between that 50 and the 17 price point. But it's right where their willingness to spend is, right? They didn't really want to spend $50, but maybe they were willing to spend more than $25. Now you've given an option for people to price select into the $30 thing. And the last point again here is, you just want to be careful when, you want to be able to have multiple of these promotions to experiment with. Here's a couple of examples. Best practice here up on the upper left-hand side, is a countdown timer. Having a countdown timer creates a sense of urgency because people think this might not happen forever. And if you played the biggest games in the industry, you'll know that once that timer expires, you get another option with a new timer that counts down. So it's not as limited as it may seem at first, but it does create a sense of urgency and increase your monetization. On the right side, we have a seasonal special from Game of War. It's also using bundling, so it's not just currency, but also items as well. All right, so which brings me to announcement. We are happy to announce that we have a new service. It is called Unity IAP Promo. What Unity IAP Promo does is it does all these things that I've just been talking about for the last 15 minutes and creates a cloud configurable system that lets you upload promotions, run them in your game, and then we use advanced machine learning targeting techniques to optimize which users see what and the monetization for your game. This is going into beta today, so come talk to us after the presentation if you're interested in IAP promo data, and we will sign you up and get you running with all the best practices that we have. Here's our dashboard for IAP promo. That little white box is filled in with whatever your creative is. We've spent a long time making sure that whatever you're doing will feel native to your game. So it's fully customizable, the buttons are customizable, you upload the buttons, there's transparency, so it looks like an overlay with your game, so you can still see the background behind it. It's exactly what you do in native. The difference here is we have scheduling and targeting systems built into the system that make it work magically, and you can just sit back and let it do its thing. There's a lot of robots involved, so even I don't understand how it works, but it's good. All right. And now, Felix is here to talk to you about the other 97% of players that don't spend and how you can make money from ads. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Stephen will be back again to show you a demo about paid advertising later on. But the other side of promotion is how do you, again, like what Stephen said, benefit from the remaining 97% of your user base that actually do not end up being a payer. Freemium model is big these days, and freemium model and paid advertising really kind of go hand in hand, because when 97% of your player base do not end up being a payer, there has to be a way for you to basically get an alternative revenue stream that will fuel your game development, so you can continue to develop content that your players will enjoy and continue playing. In order to benefit from paid advertising, it's important to note the distinction between the two types of advertising. One is in-game advertising, it's install-based, and the other one is brand advertising. It's very eyeball viewership and brand recognition based. These are very different and complementary. They do not compete. So at Unity, we don't believe that you need to choose because we support both. We have a team that is working very hard in integrating third-party brand name demand providers on both categories, as well as our own direct demand, so you can benefit from all sorts of paid advertising demand. The big difference between the two is install game-based advertising really cares about your affinity. So affinity that you have towards a certain genre. Let's say you are a player that have installed like 3 racing games in the past. So when there's a company that wants to advertise their racing game, it's very likely that they're willing to pay a significantly higher sum to show you an advertising for that racing game if you are one of those players. But imagine if you don't have genre affinity. You just casually play a couple games here and there, but you happen to be a fashionista and you shop a lot and you buy a lot using your mobile phones. These are the perfect segment for brand advertisers to really shine. So the saying that one person's fool might be another person's gold and treasure, it's true here. So when you have both enabled, that's when you're really going to unlock monetization performance through paid advertising. There are best practices for ads or paid advertising. We have a short form acronym. It's called TEDDY. TEDDY is very friendly. TEDDY stands for Together, Early, Data Science, and Interactive. Together means you don't have to worry about the competition or like the nature of IAP and ads really going against each other because they work hand in hand. Our algorithm works in a way where we will know for a given cohort or a given user, have you paid in the past? If you have, it is very likely, because our entire bidding process is operated in an auction environment, that IAP ads is going to get shown, because the IAP ads is going to be valued higher than the paid ads. But if you haven't done any in-app purchase in the past, it's very likely that the paid ads is going to win, because that's going to net you more revenue as a developer. Second is implement early. We have seen studios where you create your budget, you say like, this is how many DAUs I'm going to have, this is how many ARPDAU, this is my revenue goal. I don't need advertising right now, so you don't do it. And then at a certain point, when your monetary financial goal is not being met, that's when I saw executive and producers or product managers from the studio say, oh no, now we really need ads. But the fact of the matter is, ads really shine when you have supply. Supply happens when you launched your game. So implement early before you experience any DAU decline, because that's missed opportunity that you would not be able to recover. But on the other hand, if you implement early, again, that ads revenue will become a fuel for you to continue developing content that then you can share to your players. Third is use data science for segmentation. Like Stephen said, it's a cohort of 1. Everybody should not have the same experience. One-size-fits-all T-shirt never works. So that's the whole importance of data science in our platform. Last but not least, utilize the most interactive experience. The classical form of paid ads is banner. You've seen it. It's like 320 by 50, that thing at the bottom of the page. We kind of evolve as an industry to go beyond that format. There's full screen interstitial. Then there's video. And then the latest wave of greatest innovation would be, they call it interactive playable ads, where you basically create a euphoria, a short version of your game that highlights the best part of your game so people actually want to install and try it out. So use things that are interactive because that will increase conversion, that will increase engagement. It's overall good for you, for your pocket. It's good for the player because it's a better UX. These are some of the examples on great promo. We are taking this from a couple of prominent studios. Rovio is there, and Seriously is there as well. You can see that there's a daily double and double your surprise. These are a value exchange that I mentioned earlier. Your player would not have experienced these double your surprise, for example, because you can only get one item per day. But if you watch an ad, we'll give you a second one. That's a very good value exchange where they don't feel that advertising is a forced experience on them anymore. And then on the right-hand side, you see that interactive ads. That's really a game inside a game. But what that will create is a great user experience, a great CTR, a great conversion, so people can actually appreciate that this advertising is not traditionally how people view these annoying paid advertising in the past. So it's important for us to remember format selection as well as like the value exchange with the player to create a really great UX. So this is the demo that Steven's going to fakely run in his computer one more time.
You stole my line. All right, I'm back to use the computer. So implementing Unity Ads is easy. We're back to the services window. You can simply flip it on, sort of save the parameters for your game, and then everything is linked into the back end. So we're going to go up to the menu, create a button like we did last time, but instead of being an IAP button, this will be a rewarded video button. When you place it into the middle of your scene, then your next step will be to customize the button to how it fits and the look and feel of your game, and then create a script for it to invoke the ad system. You might ask the question, why don't we have an ads button? We have an IAP button. We're working on it. So in this case, we can go and start up a script, and what you'll see is the base case of using ads is pretty simple. Like you just are able to say show ad, and our servers on the back end typically by default will show a rewarded video. You could also customize this and have multiple placements in your game. Yeah, so here we go, Unity Engine, advertisements. So one of the important things about our IAP beta is we use the same libraries for IAP and ads that we currently do. So there's no, we'll give a custom version, but in the long term, your game doesn't have to be any different than it would be today if you're using ads in IAP. So no real changes are necessary to your code. And here we go, we have a button, we give it a behavior, we tell it we want to watch the video, and that's it. So both those demos, 2 minutes long, that's how quick it is to integrate ads or IAP into your game. Thanks.
Thanks, Steven. The last of the 4P is placement. I know we're short on time, so I'm going to walk through very quickly here. The important thing about placement is to make sure that you don't break your core loop. The core loop is what you really make your game great. Like if you introduce advertising and they basically float independently like alien object in the ether, it's only going to create a really bad UX, like if you're slapping it on. So the best way to basically do placement of advertising is to place it exactly in your core game mechanics, the core loop. People get reward by watching an ad. They can spend that reward. They can upgrade their building. And then they collect resources. And then that will resume with the play and progress. When you have a advertising that is completely seamless in your game, that will allow players to get the best UX, and that will also drive engagement. Placement is probably one of the arguably most important concept of the 4Ps, because if you have a bad placement, that's really going to impact UX, and people may drop the game. And this is when people say, I do not like advertising. So the best practices is make sure we engage as much as possible to drive the best positive player experience. The two things that we can do there is, one, remember the core loop. Put it in the core loop. Don't make it free floating outside. And second is, there are options on what format you can choose from. If you select a format that is opt-in in nature, that will create a opt-in nature for the player to engage versus that ads to be forced on them. Second is, do optimum gating. So there's a great balance between not gating it way too late and gating it way too early. What I meant by that is, you need to identify which players are potentially going to be whales. So you don't want to show ads to whales. But one way to do it right is, let's say 3 to 7 days of spend behavior is a very good correlation to what LTV is going to be like. So you wait 3 to 7 days until you see the behavior of spend, and you decide to show ads or not to show ads. The wrong way to do it is to wait until an artificial level 99 or like 60 days after the player has started playing to show an ad, and it's the same setting for everyone. So there's that. Last but not least, don't forget to always experiment, because it's hard to get this right the first time. But if you experiment, like different surfacing, different placement options, is it when I'm out of coins, when I'm out of energy, when I'm idle, this will allow you to actually discern which placements work best for your game. This is an example of a bad placement. You can see that this is the classical, like, there's an ad banner somewhere at the top. But the nice thing for us is, given the fact that we are all in the app development space, we have a lot of objects that present interactivity that you can actually leverage. If you look at the piggy balloon right there, if you see the ice cream truck as well as the stagecoach, those are all surfacing elements of ad. So when you click on it, an ads will show up, but it's very immersive. It's part of your game. It doesn't seem foreign at all. So those are the 4 Ps. Remember, product, make sure that you have IAP and ads enabled, the best of breed of both. Price, make sure that you have a price for everyone. Promotion, IAP Promo Beta is live, and there's Teddy for the best practice for promotion for ads. And on the placement side, remember experiment, and remember to make sure that UX is not impacted by paid advertising. So there's that. This is Unity. We have, again, a combination of IAP, advertising, analytics, combined with the power of data science to do LTV optimization for you. We have a sign-up session for a monetization consulting talk from 2:30 to 4:30. Since we're running out of time, we're going to step aside there. And then for those of you that are interested, please come to talk to the 2 of us, and there's a couple of other Unity employees that you can talk to. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.